Hi, kindergarten friends. It's Mrs. Mueller. Thank you for joining me again for story time. I'm going to be reading this story to you today. This is called Cross Country Trip. Now, this story is about going somewhere with your family. Now, I can see this is a family. Here's the dad and the mom and two kids. Have you ever gone somewhere with your family? Have you ever gone somewhere and then you wanted to tell someone about it after you went there? Yeah, that's happened to me too. I get so excited if I see a new place or see something new that I want to tell my friends or other family about it. This story is informational. That means it gives us information about different places that this family goes. The way the story is told is one of these kids is writing a postcard to their grandmother. Isn't that interesting? Have you ever written a postcard? I brought a postcard with me to show you. A postcard is kind of like a letter, but it usually is small and it has a picture of a place. Do you see this picture? Have you ever been here? This is called Mono Lake. This is a place in California. Now, I got this postcard and I never wrote to anyone using it, but I could have. See on the back how it's just white space? On one part of the postcard, you can write just a short message, and on the other part, you would write an address. That tells you where the postcard goes to when it goes in the mail. Isn't that fun? So, as I'm reading, we're going to be looking in the book about different postcards, and we'll see where this family went. Now, do you see this map right here? What does that look like? That's right, this is the United States of America. This is our country where we live. This map has a blue line that goes all the way across the country. Do you see that? Yeah. Do you see those little red dots all on the blue line? Those dots are places that this family stopped on their cross-country trip. So each of these red dots has a postcard that shows what it looks like in that place, and one of the children writes something that they saw or did in that place. Are you ready to read with me? Here we go. We have to drive across the country to visit Granny in Oregon. What a fun trip! We will send her postcards of places we see. Remember, they're going to be sending postcards of places that they see on their cross-country trip. Here's the first postcard. Now, this picture at the top is just like the front of the postcard. What do you see in this picture? I see a statue. Oh, look, it has a label. It says Statue of Liberty. And this one has some buildings. This says Empire State Building. That's this one. Postcards often give us information about what we're looking at. They give labels and tell us what you're seeing so that if someone hasn't been here, they would know what is important about this place. Here's the postcard. It says, "From New York City." That's where these pictures are taken. Dear Granny, we just got to New York City. The Empire State Building is really tall. Tomorrow we take a boat to the Statue of Liberty. Love, Katie. When it says love, Katie, that's how you end a letter. And I know that tells me that Katie is the one who wrote this letter. Do you remember who she wrote this letter to? That's right. It says, Dear Granny, so she wrote the letter to Granny. Now, I notice over here, there's some other words. Let me read it to you. It says, Miss Eloise Higgins, 21 Elm Street, Portland, Oregon, 97201. Does that sound like something that you know? Yeah, it's an address. I know that every boy and girl that's listening to this now has an address. An address tells us where we live. If you want to send a letter to someone, you can write their address and their name, and that letter, when it goes in the mail and you put a stamp on it, that letter goes right to them. Isn't that fun? Now on the front of this postcard, I see a building and I see another big building. This one is called the Washington Monument. Do you see how there are words here? Those words tell me more about this picture. And this picture is the White House. Do you know the White House is where the president lives? Let's read and see what Katie wrote to Grandma. It says, from Washington, D.C. That's where the White House and Washington Monument are. Dear Granny, today we are in Washington, D.C. We are going to see where the president lives. Then we will go see the Washington Monument. Love, Katie. And remember, she wrote Granny's address right here to make sure this postcard got to the right place so that Granny could read it. This page says Centennial Olympic Park. That's what this postcard is about. Remember, this is where the family went on their cross-country trip. This is one of the stops that they made. And Katie, who's writing this letter to Granny, wanted to share something interesting about what happened or what she saw at Centennial Olympic Park. What do you see in this picture? I see a sculpture. I see another sculpture. And I see a plaza. That's a big open space. And some fountains. And it looks like the fountains are coming out of some circles that look like rings. That looks like these rings too. Do you know that those rings are the symbol for the Olympics? That's right. Let's read what Katie wrote. First on the back it says, from Atlanta, Georgia. That tells me that all of these pictures are from Atlanta, Georgia. Katie wrote, Dear Granny, we got to Atlanta this morning. We are going to spend the day in the Centennial Olympic Park. That's what these pictures show. They had the Summer Olympics there. Love, Katie. So after reading this postcard, I learned that they had the Summer Olympics right here. Remember, this is an informational text. It gives us information about these places. I just learned something about the Centennial Olympic Park. Now remember, they're on a cross-country trip. I'm just going to go back to the map. Let's see if we can find out where they are now. This picture says Mississippi River, and I see on the back it says from Memphis, Tennessee. I'm going to go back to the beginning because I'm curious about where they might be now. Remember this map? Wow, it looks like they could be all the way over here. That's right. They've gone from all the way up top on the map, and now they're in Memphis, Tennessee. Let's read what Katie wrote to Grandma from Memphis. She wrote, Dear Granny, today we drove across the Mississippi River. That matches these words up here, Mississippi River. It is wider than any river back home. It took us forever to get across the bridge. Love, Katie. Let's look at this picture. Isn't that interesting? It looks like a busy place. What do you see in this picture? I see boats. I see a city. I think that's probably Memphis. Remember, that's where this picture is taken. And let's see if we can find that bridge. Do you see it? That's right. This is the bridge. And Katie told us that this river is wider than any river back home. So that makes me think this is a pretty big river. Let's see what's next. This says Taos. Taos. And what do you see in this picture? This postcard is showing some mountains in the back. And what do you think this is? Yeah, that looks like people might live there. Does that look like your house? Probably not. This is a special kind of house. I wonder if we'll learn about that here. And I see something here too. I don't know what that is. Maybe Katie will tell us more about what we see in this picture. And on the other part of the postcard, I see a woman sitting with something in front of her. I hope that Katie tells us what's happening and what was interesting about Taos. On the back of the postcard, it says, "From Taos, New Mexico. Dear Granny, now we are in New Mexico. I visited a pueblo today. I got to help a woman make bread. Love, Katie." So I learned that this is a pueblo. A pueblo. We visited a pueblo today. I got to help a woman make bread. Oh, that's what she's doing. This looks like bread right here. That makes me think that this is a big oven. And I noticed that that looks a lot like this one over here. I'm guessing that this is probably an oven too. The next postcard, look at this picture. Wow, that is a really interesting place. What do you see? Yeah, this is called the Grand Canyon. Have you ever been to the Grand Canyon? I haven't, but I would really like to go. This postcard makes me really want to go there. This says, "From Grand Canyon, Arizona. Dear Granny, today we saw the Grand Canyon. It is really deep. There is a river way down at the bottom." Do you see the river? Yeah, right there. Right here at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. And then remember, Katie signed her name. Love, Katie. Let's go back to that map and see where they are now. Do you remember? They're in Grand Canyon, Arizona. Let's look and see. Now you need to look closely. Here are all the dots we've been to. And that was Taos, New Mexico. Here they are in Grand Canyon, Arizona. It looks like they only have 2 more stops to go. And do you know what, boys and girls? We live right here. I wonder if they'll tell us about something near where we live. Have you ever seen this bridge? Does that look like something by us? If you said the Golden Gate Bridge, you're right. This is near where we live in California. This is in San Francisco. And the postcard says, "From San Francisco, California. Dear Granny, we just went across the Golden Gate Bridge. We could see the Pacific Ocean. We'll be at your house tomorrow. I can't wait to see you. Love, Katie." And an important thing about sending a postcard is you always have to have a stamp on it because the stamp lets you mail it. It says that you paid for it so that the post office can take it where you're sending it. So I see a stamp on every postcard she sent. So our cross-country trip took us all the way across the country from the East Coast to the West Coast where we live, and we learned about so many places. I hope you liked it, and I hope that the next time you're on a trip somewhere, you find a postcard and you can write someone a note about what you saw and what you learned about that place. Don't forget to sign your name, and don't forget their address and a stamp. All right, boys and girls, thank you for listening. I'll see you another time. Bye.